on to question 6, which is using a spreadsheet, which we get electronically. But in part A, we aren't using the spreadsheet, we're doing it on paper and with a calculator. So how much interest would Carol earn if she invested this gift of £2,500 for 34 months? And the interest rate is 1.25%. So the first thing we will do is change this 1.25% into an interest multiplier. So add 100 and then divide by 100, decimal point moves over 2 places and you get 1.0125. Now this is something you may be able to do without any working, but if you're unsure, remember the steps. Then we take the 2,500 times 1.0125. Now this is an annual multiplier, so the exponent has to be number of years. So it's not to the power 34, that would be 34 years. It's 34 twelfths of a year for 34 months. And we get £2,589.56. Now they've really tried to emphasise that it's the interest and not the final balance. And you can see the word interest is in bold. So we need to take away the 2,500 to get the actual interest, which is £89.56. Part B is where you use the spreadsheet. So it's a loan of £8,000 over 48 months and the annual rate is 4.9%. So we need to complete the formulae for a loan schedule. So we can start by putting in the information we've got. We already have the annual interest rate there of 4.9%. Now the loan repayment is monthly, so we need a formula to convert this to monthly interest. The obvious thing would be to do annual interest divided by 12, which is not correct. You have to use a slightly more complicated formula, which is 1 plus the annual interest rate. Now that would be the number of 1.049. Then that's to the power of a 12th, for 1/12 of a year is just 1 month, which on a spreadsheet you do as to the power of open bracket 1/12 close bracket. And at the end that will be a multiplier, so to change back into an interest rate we need to take away 1 at the end. Now if you do forget how to do this, you can, I suppose, just say equals C1/12 and you'll lose a mark, but you will be able to do the rest of the question. For your monthly repayment, you can start just by guessing some value. Now the loan period is for 4 months, so 4 years, which is 4 times 12 equals 48 months. They also haven't given us a loan amount cell, so we'll just make one up ourselves and guess £8,000. And the cell formatting is not hugely important, but it is money as currency. Your first row, the loan outstanding, is a reference to the loan amount, and that's at 0 months. But as we said before, it's 48 months. So I always recommend doing the time column first, and that helps us fill down the formulae later. So to fill down these months, you see the mouse cursor is a thick white cross. So that's for highlighting cells. So we can highlight 2 of those cells and then go down to the green square, and you can see the mouse cursor changes to a small black cross. And that's no longer for highlighting or selecting, that's for filling. So we want to fill this down to 48. And you can see the little tooltip tells you the number that it would go to. Now if you go too far, like I've just done, you can fix it. Now we can fill in the first row, well the first month. It's actually the second row. First month is special. There is no repayment at month 0, because it makes no sense to take out a loan and then immediately repay it. But after 1 month there is a repayment, and we can reference with an absolute cell reference for the monthly repayment, which we just guessed as £600. This should be an absolute cell reference for when we fill the formula down later. So either on your keyboard press F4, or on a laptop sometimes function plus F4, and it puts these dollar signs in. If all else fails, you can always just type in the dollar signs yourself. The interest is worked out always with the round function, because we only want interest calculated to 2 decimal places, and even if you just change the cell formatting to display 2 decimal places, that's still not enough, because internally to the spreadsheet in the computer it will still store all these extra decimal places, and it could lead to a few errors of a few pence which may appear to be missing or to be extra, and maybe they'll think someone's committing some kind of financial fraud if it's off by a few pence. So always use round. Interest is calculated on the previous balance. You multiply by the interest rate, and you will have to make this an absolute cell reference, and it's 2 decimal places. The capital content is the repayment, take away the interest, and the new balance is the previous balance, take away the capital content. Now because we already did the months, we can now simply highlight the row and fill it down. In case you missed anything, here are all the formulae that you need to use. So highlight with the white cross, thick white cross, but then the small black cross, double click, and it will fill down the rest of the table. You can also do that by clicking and dragging, as we did before with the months. So now we need to find the size of the monthly repayment. So we go down to the final cell balance. This is minus £21,800, so £989, but that should be 0. So we use this feature in Excel called Goal Seek. Now be aware, if you're using Excel on the web version, I believe this feature may not be present. Also, I'm not sure if it's present in Google Sheets either, so it seems that we're stuck using Excel. So it's under Data, What If Analysis, and Goal Seek. We set that cell to the value of 0, and we do it by changing the cell that is the monthly repayment. Click on OK, and it will work out the monthly repayment that we need to make it 0. Now we're not finished yet. So there it looks like 183.49. That looks good because it's displaying it to 2 decimal places. But remember, there are all these decimal places still inside the computer. As you can see, if we click on the cell, it's actually 0.48625 and so on. So we need to manually change this, and we'll round up to 0.49. Now we're paying off slightly more than we need to each month, so we need to make an adjustment on the final month. So one way to do this is to take the final payment and say that has to be equal to the final balance plus the final interest. The other way to do it would be, because you can see we've paid off 21 pence too much, is you could edit the final payment and type in at the end minus 0.21. But either way, it will be £183.28 for the final payment. Now I'm here just thought I would try and make the cell formatting match the cells around it, although that doesn't matter too much. Now I'll say a few words about printing. Almost certainly, the spreadsheet file you get will already be set up that when you print it out, the printing will be sensible and you won't have things split across pages in an awkward way. However, here's how you would set the region of the spreadsheet to be printed. So you would select the area of the spreadsheet that you want to have on one sheet of paper, and then you would click on Page Layout and click on Set Print Area. Now, even though this is the region that would be printed out, it is possible when you print this that it will still be split across pages. So one way to get things on a single sheet of paper is to go at the bottom where it says Scaling and say Fit all columns on one page. And you can see on the right hand side we are missing a column. But if I click on Fit all columns on one page, we get the final column. You can also check the pages if it's more than one page at the bottom of the screen by checking through the pages and checking out that's all printing out the way you would like it to. All the printing you do of spreadsheets should be both in Value View and Formula View. Value View is what we just looked at, and we should also have Formula View. Both of these printing should have some settings that we'll look at later, but for now let's look at how you would print in Formula View. So on the spreadsheet you would go to Formulas and click on Show Formulas. The other thing you could do instead is on the keyboard you can type Control backtick, but if you forget, it's in the ribbon under Formulas. The other thing that's useful for printing in Formula View is to change your page orientation to landscape, and this just gives it more horizontal space for these long formulae to fit in. Something else that you should do when you're printing out your spreadsheets is you should go into Page Setup and you should make sure you put on these settings for grid lines and also row and column headings. I'm going to change the page orientation back to portrait because we're back in Value View. But then you go to the Sheet tab in Page Setup and check row and column headings and grid lines. Now I believe in the more recent question papers they do actually give you these instructions to set these settings at the beginning of the question paper. And we can see the difference this makes, that you now have these headings and grid lines. And this just makes it a lot easier for the person marking your question paper to understand what you've done and to try and find out if they're able to award you some marks. And also, I'll say it again, please make sure you print out in Formula View as well, because some of the marks won't be available to you if you just do Value View.